So, welcome to a Tuesday education stream. Apologize for being late. What we're going to be covering today is third-person shooters. After we kind of announced battle stations, I was like, hey, this is a good moment, I think, to start getting kind of the know-how out there about making shooters and kind of concentrating a little bit more on that genre, because we're going to have all these really cool new weaponry coming, and it's going to be really awesome to play around with that. So I decided to stay on a production, on the public stuff versus use battle stations, because it's going to come next week anyway. And we
Look
can
at you and your terminology.
I know, I'm getting so technical now. So we're sticking here. We just got some first contact stuff, so we have a little bit of an environment to play around in. So third-person shooters. So chat, you guys can even brainstorm this and just think about it to yourself. So like third-person shooters, that genre means a lot to different people. I think of like Tomb Raider. I think of like the reboot. I think of like Gears of War.
Yeah. I just think Gears of War. Like
Gears of War is like
the immediate one. I think.
Yeah, is the immediate like third-person shooter. But even like, is it Mass Effect too? Mass Effect's third-person shooter.
Yeah, it is.
It's like over his shoulder.
Yeah, it totally is.
And tons of those. So like, there's some very critical things like in third-person genres that are there that if you're gonna make a third-person shooter that your players are gonna expect. Mm-hmm. So the main thing, right, is camera perspective. So you're seeing your character over the shoulder and you actually see his back. You're not a first-person shooter where you're looking through the eyes. And the fun like comics, right, where the gun is like 30 feet out in front of them to make it like actually how it would be. But you're actually seeing the full body of your character on screen, and it creates a lot of cool opportunities. Like number one thing, like Gears of War franchise is famous for is like cover, right? Because you can see your full body, you actually like go like the cover perspective is really powerful because you actually are you see your target and you're able to move around. Also,
imagine that in first person, like you just see a crate. This crate's very interesting.
I mean, it would be very like cinematic, I guess, right? Like it's just a lot of shaking and disorienting. I imagine, like jumping back and
that's true.
It'd be pretty crazy. But yeah, so like and the other cool thing I think third-person shooters, and this is what I think a lot of them do now, is you can actually do like more stealth, right? Like you can sneak around because you have that full body perspective. You're able to like move around different things and like hide and stuff. So like I think stealth is actually playing a more and more important part into third-person shooters too.
Totally.
The other big crux for third-person shooters are weapons, right? Like weapons are, you say every character, he's like the hero, but his really the star lineup is usually the weapons, like without a doubt. Like conflict is the main thing that third-person shooters are all about. It's all about going through corridors and encountering enemies and having these like awesome firefights, and the weapons are like kind of like the little heroes of that story. And so like having really cool weapons in an arsenal to support that is really important. So those are just some of the things like as you go through and think about the genre, like those are what mainly stick out to me.
Mm-hmm. So what brain do you have on this guy?
I started off just third-person adventure, actually.
Oh.
I'm going to change that, but I just wanted to start off as like generic as possible. So, think male peasant here, third-person adventure. First thing we are going to do is jump on, and we have a really good, default third-person shooter brain. There you go. So that guy right there. And we're going to put that on the guy, and let's just see what that does real quick, because we're going to use this kind of as a baseline. We're obviously going to modify a ton of it, but let's look at what that does. Okay, so one thing, character, we're seeing the full body, right? He's always facing camera forward, so if I rotate around to look around, so his back is going to always be toward us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wherever he's shooting is toward center too, wherever we're looking. And I mean that's pretty general. And
he has a futuristic bow and arrow too.
Exactly.
Or his crossbow.
Yeah, super fancy crossbow. He's like Chewbacca.
Oh man, yeah.
That has to happen now.
I know. Right? Yeah.
Who says you can't have crossbows in space? It's already been done. So there you go. We're gonna jump back in now. A lot of things that we don't need on this brain, we're gonna change. Let's see, I don't really need my health to display right now, and I don't like that display anyway. We're going to stick with the boom camera here. One thing I like to do, and this is a quick solution to getting your character on, like, usually think looking over the right shoulder if the character is like right-handed, and we're gonna just do that real quick by changing the offset here. So this is a variable offset, vector variable, and it's getting set just one time, and it's world up plus character forward. We're gonna also add right to that. Position, directions, right, and we'll see what happens in test mode. That's gonna basically move that offset over to the side of my character this way, so the camera is correct. So here's that boom camera, target offset on that guy. Here is the very important movements actually by strafing. So that's why like your character's always actually like, so when you move left, right, he goes this way and he doesn't change the orientation of his character. And the way that he actually does change turn is by, you're actually using boom camera with controls, and then whenever your camera forward changes, your forward matches up with that. And then to keep everything from going crazy, it also makes sure your character's up stays up and world up. So taking this line is really important. If you don't do that, your character's gonna like be stuck in terrain in about 5 seconds. This is usually what happens.
Yep.
And then you got your standard shoot here, so right trigger or X, jump, and then your interact logic that's on everybody's page. Cool. All right. So first thing that we're going to concentrate on in this tutorial is weapons. I want to talk about picking up weapons and basically using them to shoot and giving them the much needed variables like ammo and a magazine, so you have clips basically, and you're able to reload. So hopefully we're going to be able to cover that today. Let's jump right into that. So let's get a weapon down here. I really like Astro Pistol. And I'll change it when I share this. I'll take out as much DLC as I can. But for this, I think it's more interesting to look at the pistol because it's so cool.
Getting to a question in chat, and something that we'll also, when we put this up on YouTube, we'll link to. Question asked a lot of times is, how do you shoot exactly at the crosshair in a third-person shooter?
That was covered in a tutorial a long time ago.
So we actually had a really great tutorial that
and
Jared...
I can do that too on in these streams.
Yeah.
Maybe even today I can try to touch on it.
I guess if we have time. But Jared had a really great tutorial he did back in October of last year, so it's almost a year ago now, where he actually covered exactly in a third-person shooter how to shoot so that you hit exactly where the crosshair is.
And it's really easy. It's like once you kind of figure out what it's doing, and I mean, it's like a line or two of code, basically. Like that's it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a really nice raycast from camera to forward or whatever. But yeah, so cool. So pistol, right? So any weapon, generally, when you put these guys in here, they have this standard equip brain. So whenever it gets interacted, we're gonna equip that. So if you jump in, right, so you have like this weapon, it's just sitting there, I press B, and now I have it. And I'm still shooting crossbow bolts, because that's what my brain says. But there you go. So that's very generic shooting. You know, that's point where I think a lot of people get, but we want to get more varied than that. We don't want to be able to just shoot continually forever. That's not super interesting. So first, one thing, because it's going to bug me, let's make sure we're not shooting crossbow bolts with that. Astro Pistol Projectile. Alright, cool. Alright. So one thing I'm going to do, which is going to be a little bit different, is so this weapon, we're going to like have a kind of idle brain, is like the way to think about it. It's going to be like initialize, but it's going to be like how this brain's going to go right at the beginning and until my player interacts with it. So let's call it initialize. Cool. Alright. So first thing that's going to happen, I'm actually going to set some variables up inside this guy's brain. And a couple of those are actually, so this is a fun thing. So I like weapons, right, when they're, if you think about like weapons, right, when you kill an enemy and you drop, they like are all tumbling. It's cool because they have like physics, right? But when you actually are picking up a weapon for a first time, it's usually highlighted and it's not like tumbling, right? It's kind of like set aside from that. So I like to actually keep these guys, let's see here, I give them a physics of fixed, and then I like to give them like a slow rotate, so they kind of like are more like pickups. And so let's go physics type here, we're gonna make that fixed and fixed. All right, cool. And then we're also gonna add all of our weapons. How our character is gonna think about them is by going and seeing them as part of an object set. So let's create a new one. We'll just make a global object set so everybody can reference it. And it's gonna be called weapons. Cool. And we're gonna make sure that this gun is a part of it. So let's go over to math. Best way to do this is just global object set increment up by me, since I'm in that ring. So now it'll do that one time. Okay, cool. Then we're gonna set a bunch of other variables here too. And let's also go and give this guy that rotate I was talking about, which is really easy. Just yaw slowly, and it'll do just that. Okay. Now, because how we're doing this on a different page and we're kind of setting these up, the actual equipped is going to change. So I'm going to actually do a new page here, and I'm actually going to just call this equipped. And I'm going to just throw that on there real quick. And let's see. So now when I interact with this, I actually want to, we're going to do also a page switch. So none of that other stuff is running. Switch page. Good habit to get into is always when you switch page to use the text. Because it'll go to that one specifically as opposed to the next page, and then you end up changing directions of stuff. So let's go equipped here. Cool. And we're going to add, so let's just look at that real quick. First, I want to also change this around. I like to do a couple different things with my first-person shooters. I very much think of like the movement and style of like Gears of War. So I like my dodge to actually be done by A, and then eventually cover 2, which hopefully we'll do a part on incorporating that in with the shooter. We won't have to review all of that because we did that in another tutorial, but it'd be cool to see that with shooter mechanics. Okay, movement is actually combat, and then dodge. Cool. And what we're gonna do is take all that out. In my interact, I'm gonna actually use X, which is pretty common, I think, for shooters. X is usually interact and reload. So let's do that. And then we're gonna change this display here real quick. And boom. Okay. So now it's going to be blue instead. It's going to display an X, and X is going to be the actual interact. I only want to shoot with right trigger. I don't want to use that to attack anymore. So just doing some kind of cleanup here on what I want to do. Okay. Cool. So here's my third-person shooter. So now I'm using A here to dodge. So it's pretty cool. So if I don't use left stick at all, this is like nice that it has this like default behavior. So if I'm not using left stick at all, it'll just roll forward. And then if I have like I'm holding it to the left, my guy is going to sidestep to the left and then slide step to the right, and then he'll backflip if I'm going, which is really nice. It's like cool that that is like 3 lines of code, and you don't have to like specify all those things. Specify. Glad I can speak. Okay. So here's that, and here's that blue, and here's the pickup now. There we go. Sweet. All right. So now let's get into a bit more interesting things. So I'm going to keep track of all my gun's variables in that gun. And there's reasons for that. I like the idea that when you drop it, or if it's like a multiplayer setting, like, you know, if you have 5 bullets in the clip of your gun, somebody else can pick that up and have that same 5 clips. Like it's kept with the gun. Not necessarily all of the variables would be like that. It kind of just depends on how you want to set it up, right? Sometimes your character is like carrying a bunch of fake ammo in reserve, but would keep that even though he drops the gun. But it just depends. In this case, I'm going to just keep everything in the weapon. Alright, cool. So, really you need 4 variables, if I'm remembering correctly here. So think about it like a gun, right? So you have, there's always the magazine, which is what you're currently, like, your active bullets that you can shoot from. So you have a bullets in the clip, and then you have a max clip size. So it's like how much your magazine can hold, and then what actually is currently in there. And then, so as you shoot, right, that clip size is going to actually, the bullets in the clip are going to go down, but your max size is just a static number. Like, that's how much is in that magazine. And then you have a reserve of ammo, which will actually, is like how much you have, and then there's the max value of that. So we're going to need at least those 4. So let's just keep it really easy. Bullets in clip. So clip or magazine, whatever you want to call it. Bullets in clip, I'll go with clip. And we're going to do another one here. We'll call it just clip size. And we're going to do another one. We're going to ammo held. And we'll do one more. And this will be, we'll call it max ammo. Cool. So this is setting it up for this Astro Blaster. So that's a big thing. We're in the Astro Blaster's brain doing this work. You know, and these are pretty arbitrary, right? It all just depends on balancing and, you know, when you end up doing damage and all that kind of stuff. That's a very important part of third-person shooters is this is like the amount of bullets in the clip and its fire rate and like all these really specific things. You know, like the balance of them together is really important, right? So if I have a rocket launcher, I shouldn't be able to fire that, you know, 80 times per second, and on top of it have a clip of 100. Like when it makes sense, right? Usually it's like 2 or 3, and you have a really slow reload time. And depending on how, you know, in depth we're able to take this series on third-person shooters, we'll see what we can cover. But so like bullets and clip, right? So this is initializing, so I want to assume that I have a full clip. So let's give it 10, and then a clip size also of 10. And then we're going to do ammo, let's say, let's do like 40. So he has like 4 times with the clip size he's going to have extra. And then let's say like the max here is 100. Not 1,000. It's a big gun. Okay, cool. So he can hold up to 10 times of the magazine size. He's going to start off with like just less than half in reserve. And then he'll have 10 bullets ready to fire at the beginning. So how does now my character like understand that and use that to actually shoot and reload from? So if we go here into the character's brain, right? So here's my shooting, right? And it's allowing me to shoot. So let's change that. First thing I actually want to do is I'm going to do a fire by actually press instead. So it's not going to be an automatic weapon. Because it's pistol, you'd be able to change that. Obviously be able to do a hold down right trigger and then like shoot every so often in increments. So you'd be able to do an automatic that way. So I don't want to be able to shoot when I don't have any bullets, and I need to be able to reference that gun that I'm actually picking up too. So that's really important. So when I am interacting, I'm gonna interact. Yes, interact. Okay. And I want to also, so it is going to be, in this case, the gun that I'm interacting with. So when it is contained in that global weapon cover set, object set, so global weapons contains it, we're going to update a object variable on my character, right? And we're going to point this to the gun that I'm picking up. So we'll just keep it super simple, equipped weapon, boom, whoa, jump. Okay, so equipped weapon is going to equal it. So we're going to interact, and then we're going to say if it's part of that, then that's going to be my equipped weapon. Cool, and the actual equipping is happening on the weapon brain, so we don't have to worry about that here. All right, awesome. Sweet. And actually, so here, right, we're going to do now equipped weapon, and we have those variables on that object. So we're going to do bullets and clip, right? And we're going to do, it has to be greater than 0. If it's empty, it can't be empty, basically, in order to shoot. So bullets and clip, when it's greater than 0, we're going to be able to shoot. Now, right now, we have no display or anything like that that's informing me of what's going on. So let's actually do a quick display. This isn't like a final, but this is going to be helping. It's more of like a debug display before you get like your fancy one in. So let's go here. We're going to just call a page. we're gonna make a new page. Wait on that text actually. So let's do that here. And we'll just call this display or UI or however you want to do it, or just weapon UI. So on here we're gonna display a bunch of things. So we're gonna wait on that. Let me get this guy. Display. Cool. So now every frame it'll call over here too. So it's like both of these pages are running at the same time with this page on top of this page. It's just cleaner that way for you guys. At least I think so anyway. So display. So let's go. Okay, we made equipped weapon. So let's make sure we know what we're holding, right? So let's just make a text here real quick. Okay. So equipped weapon is this guy. Make sure you, when you're doing this, you put pluses between. I always forget to do that, and I'm like, why is it giving me a flag? Why isn't I can't find the tiles that I need? And it's always because I forget pluses.
Yeah.
So that just helps with the syntax as you're doing a display of different elements.
The other thing is, especially if you run into syntax issues with text, it's when you tend to run into it. Try putting stuff in parentheses as well. That usually fixes a lot of problems.
Like that. So now, and I want to go screen location, top right. And we're going to also do this just in case. Let's do, so this is my equipped weapon, right? So this is when equipped weapon actually is something. So let's go equipped equal, does not equal nothing. And then when it is else. Okay, cool. So an equipped weapon equals does not equal to nothing. So that means it equals something. Then I'm going to actually display that name. Otherwise, we're going to actually have a thing that just says nothing. Nothing. And we're sad about that. Okay. Cool. And then we're going to put some stuff here now. So when we actually have something equipped, we're going to display a couple other things. So display, we want to display that current weapons. Let's see here, bullets and clip. And we're going to also, we're going to add a little text here in between. We're going to just do a slash. I like to do space, space / space. And then that'll give it a little bit more breathing room between the two numbers. So there we go. So as you can see, we're making a fractional here. So bullets and clip, and you can guess what I'm going to put here now. It's the size of the clip size. And clip size, cool. And we still want to make sure that is large, and we'll put that underneath. And then we're going to do another line here, but it's going to be our MO held over max MO. Cool. All right. See if I messed up anywhere. So test that guy. All right. So I knows that I have no equipped weapon, so it's nothing, and he's sad. Pick this guy up, and now I have equipped weapon, pistol. So I have 10 bullets in the clip out of 10 in the magazine, and then 40 in reserve out of 100 total I could hold. Now, none of the logic's there, right? All it knows is that I can shoot now, but nothing's decrementing. It doesn't know that I'm actually, I should be lowering those numbers or anything like that. And can you, hopefully, they can. Okay, cool. I was afraid that the frame would block it, but I think you guys can see it okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Looks like it's barely in there.
Yeah, let us know if that's terrible, and we can take off the frame. All right, cool. So now, what does that logic look like when we're decrementing here? So every time I'm going to press this trigger, I also should be taking bullets and clip, and we're going to be decrementing that by 1.
Make sure to also take,
and 1. So we'll do it like that. So every time I'm going to press, that's going to go down.
And this is the same logic we used in the Conquer Multiplayer Arena game that we made.
Yep. So now if I get down to 0, it's not going to let me shoot, no matter how much I'm pressing that right trigger. So now, but I have 40 bullets in reserve. So how do I access those? So the mechanic
reload.
there is the reload. And reload's really fun. Reload is cool, and it gets it can get really complicated depending on okay, I have this type of gun, right? I want to have different lengths of reload time,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, like there's a lot of stuff that happens with reload that can make it way complicated. We're gonna keep it pretty simple here with just like updating integers, but reload is like a really important aspect. And like even in my Gears game, right, I did the active reload, which is
Oh yeah.
with like a meter that like updated over time, and then like
That's
you had to
right.
stop it in between, and then you get bullet damage bonus. So you can take reload to new heights if you'd like. We're gonna try to keep it pretty basic here.
You could make it its own little game. Like, what if you level link to a reload level
No.
that does the whole reload, and it's like
And you
a
have to like
2
get
minute
the bullets
process.
in the magazine.
Yeah, it's like a
everything.
2 minute process, and then it level links back, and then you have your full clip.
It's like a mini game of reloading.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, for like a Gatling gun or something, that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Actually, right? Like some huge like elaborate reload process. I think some of those like crazy extreme stuff is like what makes Spark special, where you can like do that stuff, right? Like you can't imagine like even necessarily an indie game person making something like that experience, but like why not? You can do that in Spark, and this is like hilarious.
I know. Or just make the entire game just like loading a gun,
Right.
and that's like the entire game. It's just like one guy like slowly putting each bullet in there.
Yeah. So I want to use, in this case, I want to use X to be my reload, but we're also using that to do interact. So I want to just quickly do a Boolean that's going to separate those two. So interact, interactable. I was like, I'm forgetting half that word. Interactable near. All right. So when I'm detecting an interactable near, that's going to become true. And this is just a simple conditional. So whenever I'm not by an interactable, I'm not going to be able to prompt for a reload. You can obviously change that. You can have it probably where one takes precedence over the other. But in this case, I'm just going to shut it down. And we're going to do the else line here. So whenever I'm not detecting something, that is going to go back to being false.
Now, chat is now making me think about, like, I really do kind of want to make a game with realistic loading time. So, like, every time after you shoot, you, like, sit it down and start, like, putting the clip in and spend, like, 30 seconds with it.
You don't like just, like, unlimited bullets. Just, like, more bullets! That's awesome. Okay, we're going to go... So now when interactable near is not true, we can do all of our fun reloading stuff. So reloading, right? So you have to keep track of integers, but it's not as like straightforward as just being like, oh, you now have max clip size, right? So you have to keep track of like how many bullets are coming out of your reserve and going into your thing. So it's a little bit more complicated. Not too terribly though. I think you guys will follow along more than easily. Okay.
It's just addition, subtraction.
Exactly. So when I'm pressing X, I'm going to initiate a reload. So how do I know I need a reload? Well, that's when my equipped weapon, when his bullets and clip is going to be any time that it's less than my clip size, right? So anytime there's that gap. Now, there's another really important part, too. So I can only reload when I actually have bullets to fill in that. So I have to have some kind of, MO. So when equipped weapon, MO in reserve, or not in reserve, MO held is what I'm using here. So that has to be greater than 0. Jumped out of that brain. I do that all the time. Greater than 0. And we're going to adjust some of this too, as I'm sure as I'm doing the math, I'll be like, oh, this makes more sense. But let me give it a couple I always do that. I give myself some breathing room on lines, and then I'll like go back and delete.
Especially when you're indenting a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like
to have
clear
those
out
reserves.
the space.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so here we go. So when X is pressed, equip weapon. So I'm saying, all right, I have less bullets than in my clip slice. I would like to bring some of the bullets that I have in my MO held up into that. So how do I do that? So let's see here. Okay. So assuming both of these are true, and let's actually do, oh, this is where I want to do it right here, actually. So there's going to be, you need two different expressions, at least I found, the way that I like to do it. So MO held, right, when it's if it's greater than the difference between your clip size and your, so these two guys right here, and I actually need to switch these guys. This one and that one. Okay, this is gonna make sense here in 1 second. Let me get the expression down so you guys see what I'm doing. I'm a visual guy, so the visual needs to be there. Okay. So when my ammo held is greater than basically the amount of empty spaces in my clip, then I'm going to evaluate this differently. So my equipped weapon, let's see here, equipped weapon, so bullets, right? Bullets in clip is what we need to increase. And we can actually do this just by doing equals. And we're going to do the clip size. So that immediately gets it back to the top. And then we need to subtract from our ammo held in reserve. Okay, so this now needs to go down by this amount right here. And we're going to go boom, 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 and boom. Okay, cool. Oh, skipped it. Okay. So if you're following along, I'm saying, these are saying, yes, I can reload. And then this is saying when the ammo that I have in reserve is greater than the size of that, we're going to just automatically put this at the top of my clip. And then we're going to decrement by that difference. So pretty straightforward. The reason I'm going to separate this now is if, let's say, like, for instance, right, my ammo held is less than the difference, then you need to basically not update all the way to the full clip size. You need to be able to say, like, I have 6 bullets in my clip, but I only have 3 left, so I get 9, as opposed to bringing it back to the top. So let's jump on, let's go an else here, I think. Oh, do I want to do an else? Maybe not. Let's see, I could do, yeah, because if I go, there's a lot of ways to do this, and probably a lot more efficient than me, but it's going to get the job done. I think that's like how all of our education streams go. It's going to get the job done. Might not be pretty, but it's going to work. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm not reloading also when this is not, this has to be greater than 0, basically, it can't be less. It's kind of redundant a little bit, but I just want to make sure. And then we're going to say, we're going to put an else on here. And that's why I wanted to, since I'm doing an else statement, I wanted to make sure I had this guy here. So when this is not true, then we want to say this. So bullets in clip now is actually going to go up. We're going to increment just by the ammo held. And then ammo held is going to be 0. So that's like depleting it. Boom. Okay, cool. Now one thing to keep in mind, all of this is running in 1 frame. And that's because we're just doing, where it's all under pressed. So it's 1 frame that this is going for. Which keeps it pretty clean, but like, you know, if this is running more than 1 frame, then your numbers would be doing weird stuff, because this would happen a lot more than once. It'd happen every single frame. Okay, so hopefully, as long as I didn't miss a variable on here, this should work. Let's test this bad boy out. Okay, test. So we're gonna pick that guy up. All right, moment of truth here. So shoot 1 bullet. Let's reload. See, I knew I did something. Okay. Boom. So it wasn't taking ammo out of my reserve. So I probably, let's see here, equipped ammo. Here's that. So my equipped ammo, decrement by this guy. Equipped weapon, bullets in clip. Let's see here. So that would be 10, 1, and that should, let's see. Held ammo is greater than 0, less than, so that all makes sense. When ammo held is greater than the equipped weapon clip. bullets and clip, so that makes sense. So if I have 10 here, 9 there, 1, so that would say that's bigger than that, so 40 would be over 1, so that should run. And then if it's not, tricky. Okay, not interactable. Let me see here. Okay, pick that guy up, so it's still decrementing correctly. It's not depleting.
So try,
Boom.
I think
I'm sure I missed a single line or something.
or I think maybe one line's updating before another one.
Yeah, let me make sure that I'm turning the interactable off. Because it could be like something as silly as that. Interactable near.
Oh, else is to, what is that to?
It's to this guy.
Okay, cool.
So that should be fine. Oh, did I make sure to update these guys? Maybe it's true, it's just not my display. No, that should all work.
So, let's see. Go to... So wait, what do you said? You're decrementing something.
Sure this is like off too. For some reason, I feel like that might like not be off. Okay, it's off. Okay, cool. So I can at least do that. Okay, good. I mean, technically, I am reloading. It's not. So it brings this. This happens.
Mm-hmm.
This part would be the part that is not happening.
Yeah.
Equipped. Oh. Hello. This needs to happen before the other line, right?
Right. Yeah. So just switch those two up. That should do it.
Now let me make sure about this one. That one would be correct. Yay! It's just that switch. Sorry, guys. All right, cool. We can cut that out for YouTube.
We never make mistakes on our
We never
streams.
make mistakes.
Always great.
Okay, so what's happening here now? So in work, so pick this guy up. So shoot 2 bullets. Now I hit reload, which is X, and there we go. So now our clip goes back up to 10, and then we minus 2 bullets on the 38. We're down to 38 now, so I can do like, let's say 3 bullets. That'll bring us down to 35. And so it's gonna always go back to the full clip, and that the calculation should be correct. Let's get down to where it would be like interesting, right? So let's go down to like 10. Okay, let's get like, okay, so there's like 3 bullets left, right? So now if I have 5 bullets left in the clip, that should bring us to 8. It does. Sweet. So there you go. So in a nutshell, that's like the very basic reloading, right? So you have the clip size now and everything like that. And then when I have no bullets at all and I can't reload, there's nothing I can do, and I can just bash enemies with my melee attack. Which I didn't give myself a melee attack, which is pretty sad. I need to do that. Because it's going to bug me if I can't punch something. Angrily. Melee. Okay, and that's just attack. Cool. So there you go. So very basic reloading on that front.
Create your game as you play? Any Spark can do it. Spark, activate the portals.